Patch 9.8 literally just dropped, and we are seeing an incredible amount of changes this time around to spice up the meta and bring players back to the game. The map rotation is changing, Sunset is getting completely overhauled, Gekko is getting massive nerfs, and we're seeing a new team deathmatch map. We're going to break it all down for you today in this patch update, so stick with us and let's get right into it. Starting out with potentially the most exciting part, let's talk about the map changes. I know many players are actually getting pretty tired of the current map pool, so get ready because we are actually seeing two fan favorites make their return this time around. Split and Pearl are coming back into the current rank rotation in their current states. I'm really interested to see what happens for the meta on these maps given all of the new agents that have been released since their removal. Agents like Vice, Clove, and ISO really haven't had their time on these maps to showcase their stuff, and even agents that got reworked like Neon and Deadlock are going to be interesting to see if they slot into the map on today's patch. With the return of Pearl and Split, we are also seeing the departure of Icebox and Lotus. While these maps are beloved by many members of the community, I promise that I will not be missing them. I'm really excited for the new map rotation, and I think that it might be one of the best ones that we've ever had in the game. On top of this, Riot is also fixing some of the big issues that many players dislike about Sunset in today's patch. So these images were posted a little while back, but if you have missed them, then here's what we've got cooking. For starters, the B main box was removed and replaced with two new boxes. This is a massive change. What we are seeing at the high levels on Sunset is that many players would abuse this cover in B main along with a really simple plant on site to allow them to spam the spike safely from main while smoked off, and this cover made that really difficult to clear out. You see this same tactic on other maps in the game as well, most notably on Icebox B site. You plant the spike and then you run away and play time. It's generally just not a very engaging gameplay loop and leaves players feeling a bit helpless on defense. Riot wants to encourage attackers to play more on site now, and this is shown by the rest of their changes on site. As you can see now, there is a bunch more cover on site. You can hide literally in the middle of the site, you can hide in multiple spots back site, and looking at this right now, it's going to be a lot harder for the defenders to retake site now, which was the other issue with the previous B site. You kind of had to play main because there wasn't a lot of places to hide on site to begin with. These map changes shake that up completely now, almost to the point where I'd say that there are too many places to hide on site, but we will have to wait and see how it plays out. There's also some changes in B spawn. I'm not exactly sure how much this will affect, but something interesting is that you won't be able to hop up on top of the spawn boxes as easily for retake. If this isn't smoked off, you'll surely see somebody trying to jump up here, making it a bit more dangerous. And then finally, they've added a new box in mid that the defenders can hide behind. Think similar to the fridge in the middle on Ascent. This makes it much more favorable for the defenders to actually push out in mid since they'll have some sort of cover to play off of. Previously, it could be pretty risky to walk out here since if you got swung from tiles, you're pretty screwed, but this change makes it a bit more easy to do that. This also is going to be a great position to listen for footsteps from and call out rotations, so don't sleep on it. The next biggest change that we need to talk about is the Gekko nerfs that are hitting this patch. Gekko was a bit too strong, and his ability to recycle his utility without really ever being punished basically resulted in him getting infinite value in rounds, which is pretty frustrating to play against. To counteract this, Riot has made some change to his globules that fall on the ground after using util to make it just a bit more difficult for him to constantly refresh his utility. For starters, it now takes him 1.5 seconds to pick up his util, up from 1 second previously. This is actually in the middle of the previous buff that he got in patch 7.12. This is a pretty valid change, as I'm sure most people who were playing at the time realized how fast it felt after the buffs to pick up your utility. To be honest, it never really felt like a risk anymore to pick up his util because it was so fast. By the time the enemy hears and processes the sound effect, your gun is already back in your hand, ready to fight. If you're looking for a frame of reference, it takes 2 seconds to pick up an ultimate orb, so we're talking just a little bit faster than ult orbs now. On top of this, the globules only last for 15 seconds now, down from 20. I'm sure all Gekko players have had those moments where they get to their dizzy orb last second and pick it up just in time. On the new patch, you would have missed that one by 5 seconds, which if you ask me is a good change. This means that you need to make the decision much more quickly on if you're trying to retrieve that flash or leave it on the ground, which with how powerful Gekko's utility is, seems like a good balance change. There are two more things to tackle with Gekko. Riot feels like Gekko utility itself is getting too much value to begin with, so they're reducing Dizzy's active time from 1.5 seconds to 1 second. Now for normal players who don't understand how Dizzy works, let me explain. So Dizzy has a wind-up time at the beginning of the flash where it won't actually be actively searching for targets. This means that even on the previous patch, you could throw it right past the target's face and it would completely miss them if timed poorly. There is also a wind down time at the end of Dizzy's animation where it can miss targets as well. So while Dizzy might be in the air for more than 2 seconds, it only ever was active for 1.5. Now, with the new changes, Dizzy will only be active for 1 second. Riot wanted to make this change because they felt that the air time on Dizzy was too much, meaning that if players didn't shoot it immediately, they basically had to hide for around 2 seconds while they waited for it to go away. Now, 2 seconds could be a really long amount of time to hide for, which is exactly why they wanted to bring it down a bit. With this change though, they have also made Gekko's utility a bit more effective. Dizzy's targeting is now much better, and it also blocks minimap vision for affected targets, and Wingman is also now going to have a larger radius on his stun. Finally, the last change made to Gekko is they've increased his ultimate points from 7 to 8. This was a very necessary change. Gekko was basically the designated spike carrier for whichever team he was on, and he basically got an ultimate orb for free every round for just planting and defusing. Now, if you combine this with collecting ultimate orbs and maybe having a good game and fragging out a bit, you could easily get thrashed 3, sometimes 4 times a half. Not only that, but you could even use Thrash twice a round, which means 8 ults a half in some situations, which is absurd. So yeah, this is a good change. Moving on from agents, along with the updated map rotation and the sunset changes, we are also seeing the addition of a brand new team deathmatch map named Glitch. We were told this is a 5v5 map that puts you in a dual themed arena. This will be the 5th team deathmatch map, and it takes place in a glitched out MaxBot arena. If you don't know what a MaxBot is like me, I looked it up, and the MaxBot is the robot that was created by Killjoy and Raze that they used for a sparring in that warm-up cinematic back in 2022. This cinematic is awesome, by the way, so definitely recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it. Personally, I really appreciate that Riot continues to invest resources into these new team deathmatch maps. In the past, they've been criticized for not providing players with enough casual options for play within the game, but I think that the continued support for TDM is really cool to see and a good sign for the game's future. While competitive can be stressful sometimes, I at the very least want to hop back into the game just to see how this new TDM map feels and give it a shot. Glitch is currently playable in the Team Deathmatch queue, so definitely go check it out if you're the same as me. Finally, there are some other small changes. Yoru is getting a slight buff, so Eggster and Ziptie, I'm sure, are smiling right now, just as I am. Now Yoru's clone will be affected by different pieces of utility, namely Vice Flash, Dizzy, and Cloves Metal. The one thing that I think is really funny though is that Neural Theft will also now hit Yoru's clone. I don't even know how you're going to get value out of that, but I'm sure that it's going to be funny to see 2 Yorus appear on the map now. Sky's Dog and Jet's Tailwind now also break the window on Ascent, which is such a niche thing that I didn't even know wasn't in the game, but maybe some Sky main is rejoicing right now. And thanks to Durka, some of these sniper reticles are getting updated for the Araxes, Valiant Hero, and the Reaver Operator, as well as the Gothic Marshal. Whew! And aside from that, the only other thing worth mentioning is the new Premier stage. Honestly, this update is pretty confusing to me, so if you're playing Premier and want to check it out, take a peek for yourself and see how it impacts you. Other than that though, that is going to wrap it up for this patch update. If you guys enjoyed this video and you want to see more stuff like this, please subscribe to the channel, it really does help us out. And other than that, my name is Casey, we here at SkillCapped want to thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.